The internal act is when your imagination becomes your new identity. Imagination opens the door to the golfer you desire to be, but it does not walk you through it. Desire reveals the ideal. Imagination allows you to enter it. The internal act is where you become it. This is the moment where the imagined golfer stops being a possibility and starts becoming your identity. It is the moment where the new concept of self begins to take root, not as a fantasy, but as a lived internal reality. The internal act is the blending of imagination with identity. It is the deliberate choice to think, feel, and respond from the golfer you have imagined. You are no longer observing the ideal from a distance. You are no longer visiting it in moments of inspiration. You are inhabiting it. You are allowing the imagined version of yourself to become the center from which you operate. This is the shift that transforms your game from the inside out. The internal act is a huge part of my Awakening Path Level 2 coaching program, and it is very challenging to take on and work on consistently for a golfer who is not totally committed to create change in their golf game. Most golfers imagine the shot, but return to the same internal state. They imagine the ideal but continue to think from the old identity. They experience the possibility but remain loyal to their limitations. The internal act breaks this cycle. It requires you to accept the imagined golfer as your new internal reference point. You begin to think from the identity you have created, not the identity you have lived. You begin to respond from the new self, not the old patterns. You begin to assume the qualities of the golfer you intend to bring to the course. This is not pretending. It is not forcing. It is not positive thinking. It is the conscious selection of a new internal state. When you perform the internal act, you are choosing the identity that will shape your reactions, your expectations, and your performance. You are choosing the emotional tone you bring to each shot. You are choosing the version of yourself that steps into every moment. You are choosing the golfer you will be. The internal act is the acceptance of the new identity as true. It is the moment your subconscious begins to reorganize around the imagined self. You feel the steadiness of the ideal golfer as your own steadiness. You feel their clarity as your clarity. You feel their composure as your composure. You are no longer imagining the qualities, you are embodying them. The imagined golfer becomes the internal reality from which you operate. This is why the internal act is so powerful. It bypasses the old identity entirely. It does not argue with your past. It does not negotiate with your patterns. It does not attempt to fix what has been. It simply replaces the old internal state with a new one. When you think from the ideal golfer, the old assumptions lose their influence. The old emotional habits lose their grip. The old patterns lose their authority. You are no longer feeding them with attention. You are no longer identifying with them. You are no longer living from them. The internal act requires consistency. The old identity will attempt to reassert itself, not because it is strong, but because it is familiar. The mind gravitates toward what it knows. The internal act is the deliberate return to the new identity again and again. Each return strengthens the new self. Each moment of attention reinforces the shift. Over time, the new imagined golfer becomes the natural golfer. The new identity becomes the default. Eventually, the internal act becomes effortless. You no longer have to remind yourself to think from the ideal, you simply do. The identity stabilizes. The emotional tone settles. The internal noise quiets. You begin to experience the game from a different center. Pressure feels different. Mistakes feel different. Momentum feels different. You are no longer reacting from the patterns of your past. You are responding from the identity you have chosen. This is the moment transformation becomes irreversible. The golfer you used to be no longer fits. The internal act is the culmination of desire and imagination. Desire reveals the ideal. Imagination allows you to enter it. The internal act allows you to become it. It is the moment where the imagined self becomes the lived self. It is the moment where the new identity takes hold. It is the moment where the golfer you have created internally begins to express themselves externally. This is the foundation of assumption. This is the beginning of embodiment. This is the birth of the new golfer. Everything that follows in this book, assumption, identity stabilization, emotional mastery, performance under pressure, depends on your ability to perform this internal act. When you learn to think from the golfer you intend to be, you unlock the transformation that has been waiting for you all along.